You did everything right. Started seeds the correct week. Heat-tolerant variety. Shade cloth up in July. Watered on schedule. October comes. 12 plants. 2 heads the size of eggs. 10 piles of leaves. 3 months of work, and roughly what you would spend on 3 trips to the farmer's market. Gone. You start wondering if your soil is off, or your seeds, or if you should give up on fall gardening entirely. You were right about the loss, wrong about the cause. Cornell research found a 10-day window before the head is even visible. 4 days above 95 degrees during that window can ruin the harvest. Most gardening guides never mention it, and it is only one of 6 mistakes hiding under the 50 to 70 days before first frost rule everyone repeats. By the end, you will know exactly when to plant, what to watch, and which varieties finish before frost. Drop your zone or state below. Minnesota and Georgia need completely different answers here. Mistake number 1. Oversized transplants. The strongest-looking plant at the garden center already gave up on the harvest. You reach for the biggest, healthiest-looking broccoli transplant on the rack at the garden center. Instinct says pick the strongest one. Instinct just cost you the harvest. Broccoli and cauliflower plants decide when to make a head based on how many leaves they have and how stressed they are. You will not find that on the tag stuck in the pot. When you buy a transplant with 8 or 9 leaves already on it, that plant has already made the decision. It is going to head. Small, fast, and terrible. This is the mistake I see wreck more fall broccoli harvests than any other. Here is what actually happens. Broccoli and cauliflower run on 2 phases. First, they build leaves. Then they build a head. The switch is triggered by leaf count and stress. A plant sitting in a small pot at the garden center for 8 weeks is stressed. Roots hit the plastic wall. Nutrients run out. The plant reads that as a signal. Space is running out. Food is running out. Better make a head now while there is still time. So it starts forming a head. When you buy that plant and stick it in your bed, it does not restart the growth clock. It runs the head-forming program with whatever leaf area it has. Not much. You get a head the size of a golf ball. Utah State Extension calls this buttoning. Transplants with more than 8 leaves are the most susceptible. 4 to 6 mature leaves is the safe range. In plain English, big transplant is not strong transplant. Big transplant is old transplant. Here is the fix. Start your own seeds indoors 4 to 6 weeks before you plan to plant out. Not 6 weeks, not 8. 4 to 6. Keep the tray under a shop light and hold the room in the 60s at night. That night dip keeps them stocky instead of leggy. Sow into 72-cell plug trays or 3-inch pots. Transplant when the seedling has 4 to 6 true leaves, a stiff stem, and a root ball that just holds together when you slide it out. If you have to buy from the garden center, do this. Pick up each plant and slide it partway out of the pot. If roots are wrapping around the bottom in a tight circle, that plant has been in there too long. Put it back. Look down the center of the leaves. If you see a tight little bud or a curd starting to form, same answer. Put it back. Buy the smaller ones with clean centers, even if they look scrawny next to the giants. Scrawny is what you want. Bigger is not better here. With fall brassicas, the free fix is the smaller plant. Mistake number 2. The days to maturity trap. That spring lab promise never survives a fall garden. If you have been trusting the days to maturity number on the back of a seed packet to figure out when to plant your fall broccoli, throw it out. Or at least add 3 weeks to it. Here's what the seed packet leaves out. Days to maturity is measured in a lab, in ideal spring conditions, with increasing daylight and warming soil. Fall does the opposite. Days shorten, nights cool, sun angle drops. Your plant does not care about the calendar. It cares about heat units. Here is how brassicas actually keep track of time. Every day above 40 degrees. The plant banks a little heat toward heading. A warm July day. Highs in the 80s and nights in the 60s. Banks a lot. A cool October day. Highs in the low 60s and nights in the 40s. Banks less than half of that. Same 24 hours, half the progress. Cornell publishes a free growing degree day calculator you can use. You do not need to run the math yourself. You just need to know a 55-day variety planted August 1st in Zone 6 has a real shot at maturity. Same variety planted August 15th is running behind. September 1st. It is probably not going to head before frost. I stopped treating packet days like a deadline after I compared them with real fall harvest dates. Once you see that, the seed packet number stops being a promise. It becomes a starting point. Here is the move. Instead of counting back exactly 55 or 65 days from first frost, add 14 to 21 days of buffer, and pick a variety under 65 days for Zone 5 through 7. Zone 8. You have a little more room. Up to 75 days works if you skip midsummer heat. Zone 3 through 5 in Fargo or Duluth. Seeds indoors late June. Transplants out July 15th to August 1st. Harvest before Halloween. Zone 6 and 7 in Chicago or Richmond. Seeds indoors mid-July. Transplants first week of August. Harvest into November. University of Maryland Extension's Central Maryland calendar builds around a first frost date near October 31st, which lines up with that mid-July to early August transplant window. Zone 8 and warmer. Skip midsummer entirely. Sacramento's dry heat and Austin's humid heat play out differently once you get past that, so lean on your county extension calendar over a national zone chart. Aim for a late September to mid-October transplant. Harvest January through March. Days to maturity is a promise made in a lab. Fall keeps its own calendar. Fair warning on the whole video. If you garden in Zone 9 or warmer and mid-July is still hitting 95 degrees, none of this July planting applies to you. Do not force fall brassicas in July heat. Wait for September, when nights consistently drop below 65. Then start over with these rules. Trying this in Florida or coastal Texas summer is not a technique mistake. It is a mistake in expectation. If you garden in Zone 9 or 10, bookmark this for September. But the next mistake is the one that decides whether you get ahead at all. It happens in a window most gardeners do not even know exists. And it is over before you can see anything wrong. Mistake number 3. The 10-day heat window. 10 days before the crown appears decides the entire head. There is a 10-day period in every broccoli and cauliflower plant's life when the entire harvest is decided. Not the day you plant, not the day you harvest. 10 days before you can even see a head forming. Miss that window, and no shade cloth in the world will save the crop. The forums argue about heat tolerance, but they are all missing the timing. The heat tolerance rating on a variety is talking about average weather, not spikes. And it is measured over the whole season, not this one specific window. So a plant labeled heat tolerant can still get wrecked by 4 days over 95 in the wrong 10 days. Track what is going on inside the plant. Around week 3 or 4 after transplant, once the plant hits 8 to 10 true leaves, the tip stops making leaves and starts making a head. Not in one dramatic moment, over about 10 days. During those 10 days, the cells at the growing tip are dividing and committing. Each little cluster of cells is deciding whether it will become an outer bud, a middle bud, or a center bud in the future crown. Push those cells over 95 degrees for 4 days in a row, and the ones at the outside carry on making buds like nothing happened. The ones in the middle get scrambled. Some skip development. Some form buds late. A few just quit. 10 days later, when you finally see a head starting to swell in the center of the leaves, you cannot see any of that. but the fate is set. 2 weeks after that, the head opens. It looks fine at the edges. The middle is a mess. Uneven bumps, weird texture, sometimes a hole. That is what UMass Amherst research documented using the cultivar Galaxy. The damage happens before the head exists, and it does not come back. I used to run shade cloth all summer, wondering why heads still failed. Shade cloth for the wrong week does nothing. Shade cloth for the right 10 days changes everything. Here is exactly what to do. If you see that bud already, the window is closing. The sensitive period is the 10 days before the crown becomes visible. Start monitoring at 6 to 8 true leaves, roughly 3 weeks after transplant. From that moment on, check the 10-day forecast every morning. If any 4 days show a high over 95, get shade cloth up right then. Do not wait for a crown. By the time you can see it, the head shape is already set. 30 to 40% shade is enough. Not black plastic, not a full tent, just a light cloth on hoops or a frame that lets air move underneath. Deep water twice in that stretch, 1 inch each time. Do not let the plant wilt. Wilting under heat is exactly the double stress that scrambles the buds. Hold the shade for 10 to 14 days until the head is out of the leaves and starting to swell. Then pull the cloth off so the sun can finish it. For fall specifically, pick varieties that hit this window fast. Green Magic and Emerald Crown for broccoli, Snow Crown for cauliflower. Full comparison at the end of the video, plus the cabbage list. 10 days decide the whole head. Miss that window and no fix works. That 10-day window alone is worth more than a whole season of trial and error. If you want more picks like this, specific, science-backed, no wasted advice, hit subscribe. Every week, same kind of depth, same level of detail. Mistake number 4. Skipping the blanching step. White cauliflower is engineered by a rubber band, not born white. That perfect white cauliflower head at the grocery store did not grow that way. Somebody tied leaves over it. If you skip that one step in the home garden, you get yellow, bitter, or brown spotted heads and blame the seed. Every single how to grow cauliflower guide I read glossed over this. Cauliflower has 3 problems that broccoli and cabbage do not. And if you do not know which is which, you will misread all of them. Watch what direct sun does to the curd. The curd starts out white because the cells have not built chlorophyll yet. Hit them with direct sun for a few days, and they do exactly what leaves do. Chlorophyll production kicks in. The head yellows or greens. At the same time, bitter compounds spike in those cells. So your homegrown head is not just off color, it also tastes different. That yellow and bitter combination is not bad seed. That is a curd that got sun. Brown spots on the curd are something else entirely. Boron. Cauliflower is a heavy boron user, and if your soil is low, the head shows it first. Sunken brown patches, water-soaked stems, sometimes a bitter aftertaste that stays even after cooking. Utah State Extension and Oklahoma State both confirm boron as the root cause here. Riced curd, that grainy, popcorn-looking head where the buds have already opened, is a third thing. High nitrogen and heat during head formation. The plant races through the head stage instead of packing tight. I went through every cauliflower guide, and none broke it down like this. 3 separate problems, 3 separate fixes. For the color, the move takes 5 minutes. When the curd first shows through the leaves and is about 2 to 3 inches across, gather the outer leaves up and over the top of the head. Secure them with a rubber band or twine. Not tight, just closed. That is blanching. Illinois Extension confirms this is the exact procedure. Check every 3 to 4 days and retie if needed. 7 to 14 days later, the head is white, tender, and ready. Snow Crown, Skywalker, and other self-wrapping varieties often close their own leaves in cool fall weather. Take a peek. If it looks done, do nothing. For brown spots, if a soil test comes back low. University of Maryland Extension has the exact dose. Dissolve 1 tablespoon of borax in 1 gallon of water and sprinkle it evenly over 100 square feet of bed. Keep it off other plants. Borax is a weed killer at higher doses. Borax lingers in soil, so a single, well-measured application usually covers several seasons. Do not repeat annually. Retest and only add when the number calls for it. For riced heads, back off the nitrogen when the head first shows. Stop the high nitrogen feed. Only add another nutrient if your soil test shows a shortage. Piling on phosphorus your soil already has does nothing good for the head or the bed. One quick note. If you grew cheddar or any orange, purple, or green variety, do the opposite. Those need sun to develop color. Skip the tying. White cauliflower is not natural. It is engineered by a rubber band and 5 minutes. Now the next one is cabbage specific. And if you have ever watched a head split down the middle overnight, this is exactly why. Mistake number 5. High nitrogen push. You told the cabbage to bolt. The weather did not. How does a fall cabbage split open or send up a small stalk from the center in 2 weeks with no cold snap in sight? Usually you had a hand in it. A push of high nitrogen fertilizer, then a big water swing, and the head tears itself apart from the inside. That was not bad genetics. That was you. 2 different failures get mixed together here. A split head starts with dry soil, followed by a sudden flood of water. The inner leaves swell faster than the packed outer head can stretch, and the head tears open. True bolting is a different animal. Cabbage normally needs a stretch of cold before it flips to flowering, and later stress can push a plant that has already been through that cold. In most fall gardens, what looks like bolting is really splitting, plus a small emerging seed stalk from a heat-stressed plant. Michigan State Extension is clear on this. Cold sets up bolting. Stress pushes it along. Steady wins. Boring is the target. I would rather grow a slightly slower cabbage than push one into a split head. Change one thing. Feed cabbage once at planting with a balanced 5-10-10 or 10-10-10. Not 21-0-0. Not fish emulsion weekly. 1 dose in the ground and stop. Side dress only if the plant clearly stalls, and only after it has 6 to 8 true leaves and is starting to form a rosette. Use a low nitrogen mix again, 1/4 cup per plant, 6 inches from the stem, worked in. Water is the other half. Aim for 1 to 1.5 inches per week combined. Use a cheap rain gauge to check. Deep watering twice a week beats a light drink every day because it trains roots down and holds moisture even. Mulch 2 to 3 inches of straw or grass clippings across the bed. That is the one thing that keeps moisture steady through a dry week and a wet week. It costs nothing if you already cut your own grass. For variety, pick one bred to hold. Caraflex is a pointed mini around 70 days, sweet and small. Fargo is a round green at about 63 to 65 days that stays in the field without splitting. Red Express is an early red at 60 to 63 days, bred for northern gardens. Cheers takes 75 days but is highly resistant to cracking. Every one of these has split resistance built in. Cabbage wants a steady life. Feed once, water deep, mulch thick. Everything else is you making it panic. Mistake number 6. Heat tolerant over fast maturity. Fall is won on speed, not toughness. Every fall garden article tells you to pick heat-tolerant varieties for July planting. I did the same for 2 seasons. Both times my broccoli hit the first hard frost with heads still 1 inch across. Turns out the fall garden problem is not heat. It is the calendar. Here is what the fall calendar actually looks like. Broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage all want the same conditions. Nights 45 to 65, days 60 to 75. In Zone 5 through 7. Those conditions do not show up until mid-September. Before that, the plant is fighting summer. After early November, it is racing frost. Your real growing window for heading up is about 6 weeks, sometimes less. Now think about what a variety label actually promises. A 75-day heat-tolerant variety transplanted August 1st hits maturity around October 15th in ideal conditions. Fall conditions are not ideal. Add 2 weeks of buffer for shorter days and cooler soil, and you are looking at late October, early November. If your first hard frost is October 20th, that plant did not finish. A 55-day variety transplanted the same day hits September 25th in ideal conditions. Add the same buffer, and you land around mid-October. Frost 20th still gives you 5 days to spare. Plus, most of these varieties survive a light frost anyway. Same day, same bed. One variety wins, and the other becomes compost. I would pick a 50-day variety over a 70-day every single time. That is the whole trick in fall. Change one thing for Zone 5 through 7. Under 65 days from transplant, always. Above 75. Only if you are Zone 8 or warmer and can plant into September. For broccoli, 3 varieties clear this bar. Green Magic at 57 to 60 days, heat and cool tolerant, easy for beginners. Emerald Crown at about 60 days, heads more evenly than most. De Chico is a heritage Italian that gives you 55 to 78 days, depending on when you cut. And it keeps producing side shoots for months. Louisiana Extension has De Chico on their recommended fall variety table. For cauliflower, Snow Crown is the safe bet at 50 to 60 days from transplant. It also holds up to a light frost, down to about 25 degrees. Flame Star is a pale orange with a reputation for heat tolerance. Wrapping and days to maturity vary by catalog, so check the packet you are buying. Cheddar, the orange one, comes in around 58 to 68 days depending on the catalog. Check the packet you actually buy. For cabbage, the fast list is Fargo at about 63 to 65 days, Red Express at 60 to 63, Gonzalez at 55 to 65 for softball-sized minis, and Caraflex at around 70 days for a pointed, sweet head. All of these show up at Johnny's Selected Seeds, Territorial Seed, or Burpee. Ignore any heat-tolerant badge if the days to maturity is above 70 for a fall bed. Fall gardens are won on speed, not toughness. A 55-day variety finishes before frost. A 75-day variety is your compost pile in November. One more honest note before I wrap. If you live in the Plains states, Nebraska, Kansas, the Dakotas, and your climate goes from 90 degrees in early October to 25 by Halloween in 4 weeks, no fast variety saves you. Fall brassicas may just not work reliably in your setup. Focus on spring brassicas and skip fall. That is not a technique failure. That is honest planning. 6 fixes. 1. Better fall harvest. Small transplants beat big ones. Timing means adding a buffer, not just counting days. 10 days before the crown appears decides the head shape. Cauliflower needs blanching for white and boron for brown-free. Cabbage wants steady food and steady water, and fast varieties beat heat-tolerant ones every fall. Fall brassicas are not harder than spring brassicas. They are just less forgiving of timing. Do the 6 things above, and you get a bumper harvest of broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage from a bed you already have, and seeds that cost a fraction of what the store charges for the finished harvest. Which of these 6 mistakes have you been making? Broccoli people, drop your zone. Cauliflower people, tell me if you have tried blanching. Cabbage people, tell me your favorite variety. I read every comment. Now think of the neighbor who tore out their fall brassica bed last October, cursing cool weather crops. The friend whose broccoli made 12 buttons the size of a nickel and swore off it. Send them this video. Do not write a message, just send the link. 6 fixes, and their next fall harvest could look completely different.